Alright, so today I'm going to be showing you what I'm making for breakfast. Started off with a cast iron pan and a little bit of butter. And the joy of a cast iron is that I can just cut my bell peppers directly in the pan. So I gave them an initial slice and then I'm just chopping them up in the pan the rest of the way. The whole cooking process is going to have a lower heat so that way I'm not destroying all the good stuff. I've also made some bone broth. I cooked this up over 2.5, almost 3 days. So this had a lot of different bone marrows and joints and tendons and ligaments. It's full of collagen and hyaluronic acid. I cooked it down to be gelatinous. I like to add it into most of my foods, kind of this like micro-dosing method where I'm getting all those minerals and nutrients without having to just drink gel. Some people do, that's cool. I'm just gonna add it in for a little extra flavor here. Now I'm gonna chop the bell peppers up a little bit smaller. Again, the perk of having a cast iron and using metal, as I'm not having to worry about scratching anything. Here I'm trying to show you my salt. It's quite blue. It's got some extra potassium and then lots of trace minerals. So I'm getting small amounts of copper and chromium and molybdenum, selenium, and all those fun sounding elements on the periodic table that are necessary for protein functioning within our body. And I salt pretty generously. I mean, if you think about what's in one of those IV bags when you go to the hospital, there's 9 grams of salt in those bags. So a little extra salt helps bring nutrients in. Here I'm showing you I prefer soy-free eggs. Soy has been found to mimic estrogens. So for women that are wanting a little extra control over estrogen in their body, they can add soy products in. I don't need any extra, so I tend to avoid it when possible. And so, yep, just going to add a couple eggs in here. I think eggs are a wonderful source of all sorts of nutrients, and as long as the chickens are eating healthy foods, then those healthy foods are then getting into their eggs. Good source of cholesterol and vitamins and different polyphenols and compounds that are great for brain health. I mean, really growing an entire chicken, right? Like a whole living entity comes out of the nutrients and the nutrient ratios that are in these eggs. So you're getting DNA, you're getting all the building components that are needed to make a biological system. And ultimately, we eat for replacement parts. So we should be eating things that can be used as replacement parts. This is relevant because, everyone's got a little bit of leftover turkey. So here I'm adding in some extra turkey to the breakfast pan. Eggs are a great source of protein. However, you've got to eat a lot of eggs to really amp up the amount of protein you're getting for breakfast. So I pretty much always supplement with some other protein source, whether that's just some meat that I've cooked up from the night before for a prep cook for a week, or in this case, extra turkey. I can add all that in to get additional protein into my diet, right? So protein first thing in the morning helps prevent you from breaking down muscle mass. We store carbohydrates and fat as fat in our body. We store amino acids as muscle. So if you're not getting enough protein in your diet, you will liquefy muscle mass, collagen, fascia, these nitrogen compound containing sources in order to get the amino acid you need to function throughout the day. Knocking here on my glass container. Again, every little bit you can avoid extra plastics in your diet is great. All right, people. There was fighting that occurred over spices, right? You've got the whole Silk Road. You've got people that literally died for access to what we just call seasonings, these spices. You look at the Nutri-Score, the amount of nutrients per gram or the density, and things like oregano and thyme and basil and sage, they all have so much value to them. So I suggest seasoning your food heavily, especially with these Italian or herbs of Provence style seasonings. And again, because I'm cooking this on a lower heat, I'm not really frying the eggs. I'm not searing them. I'm not degrading some of these nutrients as much, but I'm helping kind of mix everything together, and not eat raw eggs. So I'm getting up to a good temperature, but not too much. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is put my carbohydrates at the bottom of my plate. Potatoes and rices and other carbs, these starches, after they cool off, they become resistant starches, which is great because it lowers the overall glycemic index. So you're still getting the carbohydrates, but you're not having as much as that spike. I typically eat less carbs for breakfast and save that more for lunch. But you can see here, I plan on going to the gym in a little bit, so I'm adding in some extra carbs into my breakfast, and then I've put them at the bottom, and I'm going to add this warm, delicious bake that I've made in the skillet on top. By the time that I'm eating this, those potatoes will be warmed up. I mean, they're not going to be, like scoldering hot, but they're going to be more than warm enough to enjoy. So I'm going to add all this in on top. Again, I've kind of flattened those potatoes out so they will pull the heat in a little bit better. And then I'm moving my cast iron off of the heat, and then adding some cheese. In this case, it's Parmesan. Now I'll show you here just in a second. 9 grams of protein per serving. So I love Parmesan because it has such a high protein content per total amount of mass. If you are buying the pre-shredded Parmesan, the chances of it being 50% cellulose or, grass in essence, cardboard, just tree bark, that's pretty high. And so you can, do the math, you can do the weight, and you can see that, if your Parmesan's coming in a green container, it's mostly filler and cellulose to prevent it from caking up. But Parmesan is pretty dry, so I like to add that on, and then I'm drizzling on my olive oil after the fact. So my food's a little colder. I'm not ruining the olive oil by heating it, but I'm getting more of those polyphenols from the bell peppers and the cheese and everything from that olive oil to help it absorb, and this is breakfast.